I think that's why I'm still alive today. And it just got worse and worse and worse. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
but Bill, the air is less polluted. The water is less polluted. As countries get richer, they pollute less. When they're industrializing, they pollute more. There might be individual environmental toxins, yes, but as a broad, description of the status of OECD countries, we are polluting on net less.
It depends on where you live, first of all.
Yeah. That's right.
Out here in California, I believe I'm breathing in the fire still.
So, Bill Maher hosted Douglas Murray, Tina Smith, and some woke Democrat on his show to debate the UK Parliament's recent ruling that a woman is defined by biological sex. Douglas Murray dropped a hilariously sharp take while Tina shamelessly twisted the DNC's position. That blatant lie lit a fire under Maher, unleashing one of the most scorching verbal smackdowns ever delivered on his stage. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. I've got every clip lined up. So, smash that subscribe button and let's dive right in.
The big ruling this week in England, the Supreme Court, their definition of woman is biological sex. To put it in shorthand, J.K. Rowling won.
Yes. J.K. Rowling won. Everyone who said this for years has won. All the, particularly women who've been defamed and lied about and bullied and chased and much more for years, they were right. And I just think, apart from being a statement of the obvious, isn't it amazing that the best legal minds in Britain spent years having to work out the first thing we knew as a species?
Interestingly, the so-called best and brightest legal minds in America are still stumbling over a question that humanity settled centuries ago. Who is a woman? Imagine that. The people writing laws and shaping policy need us to constantly remind them of something every farmer, philosopher, and grandmother throughout history already knew. That's the level of wokeness we've descended into. For millennia, cultures across the globe recognized what a woman is without hesitation. Yet suddenly in the last few years, a group of self-proclaimed enlightened elites decided they've cracked some hidden code of gender and declared the rest of us ignorant. They don't want clarity. They want confusion. A cultural reset where truth is optional and biology is negotiable. And here we are drowning in absurd debates while pretending the obvious is complicated. Welcome to modern America where common sense is now a radical act.
But just to be clear, we're not saying there's not such a thing as trans, right? We're not saying there's not such a thing as someone who is, quote unquote, born in the wrong body.
I don't think people get born in the wrong body now.
Oh, I do.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a default setting for humans. Yeah. We should acknowledge that. It's not just every time there's a baby, ooh, who knows what the fuck it is. That's crazy. But there are...
Beyond me.
Yeah. But there are variations.
There are
homosexuality.
That's right. It's a continuum.
And then, but it's how we handle that.
That's right.
I mean, and I think we would agree that, children, and this is where America is now an outlier country. We're the only country that went full, and I guess Trump is reversing it, but certainly under Biden, who went fully toward that. Like, we don't care what age, kids can self-diagnose themselves. I mean, that to me was going way too far.
Well, that's certainly debatable, at least according to those who insist they were born in the wrong body, a condition politely dressed up as gender dysphoria. And sure, people can feel however they want about themselves. But let's not pretend feelings rewrite biology. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, and no amount of hashtags, hormone injections, or political lectures can erase that truth. Yet, in today's upside-down culture, saying something so obvious is treated like heresy. We've reached a point where acknowledging basic biology gets you labeled intolerant, while denying it gets you applauded as progressive. But here's the reality. Gender is not a spectrum of endless possibilities. It's two categories, male and female. End of story. Everything else is a narrative layered on top. You can debate identities all day long, but you can't erase the foundation of human existence.
Nobody just comes back to the sensible center.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the sensible center is that, you respect people, you trust parents, You let parents figure out what to do with their kids, and you don't need a bunch of politicians in Washington making decisions about
That is not the Democratic position, at least here in California.
Well, that's my position.
I'm good. I think that's where the Democratic Party should.
Sure, that is not the position that we've had here in California, which is like, don't tell the parents what the kids are doing at school. That's a whole, and that you really alienate voters.
Then there's Tina Smith's little whopper about the Democratic Party's position. She tried to sell the fantasy that Democrats have no interest in pushing gender ideology on kids. But we all know better. For years, the party has been championing the idea that children, yes, children, should have the authority to decide whether they want to transition or not. Think about that. The same kids who can't legally buy a beer, sign a contract, or even stay up past curfew are suddenly wise enough to make permanent life-altering medical decisions. But it doesn't stop there. Democrats went even further, backing proposals that would essentially criminalize parents who dared to say no to their child's whims. Imagine being threatened by the government simply for protecting your kid from irreversible harm. That's not compassion. That's coercion. And Tina Smith knows it. She just doesn't want you to. But that's not all. Here's Maher lighting up the left for criticizing RFK Jr.'s research in autism. Take a listen.
What I read in the paper is he did speak on it this week. And I did not agree with the point of view of the article I was reading, which was that he's completely crazy because he was saying it's not mostly genetic, it's mostly environmental toxins. I happen to believe that's probably a more likely answer. And they were saying, well, no, genetics, and of course genetics is involved in everything health-wise. But to present the argument I saw framed in that way, that he's a kook because he thinks it's coming. I mean, environmental toxins is really the story of my lifetime. I'm glad I was born as old as I am at a time when everything wasn't completely polluted.
And that right there is the left in a nutshell. The second you step out of line or say something they don't approve of, they don't debate you, they smear you. Name-calling, labeling, character assassination, that's their playbook. They did it to Trump the moment he shattered their political comfort zone. They've tried the same with J.D. Vance, painting him as some radical villain for daring to speak the truth. And now they're doing it to RFK Jr., a man who ironically used to be one of their own. But here's the kicker. The outrage against RFK Jr. isn't really about disagreeing with his positions. No, it's about the fact that he's no longer orbiting their bubble, no longer pairing their talking points, no longer useful to their agenda. The left doesn't punish you for being wrong. They punish you for being independent. And that's the ultimate sin in their world.
I think that's why I'm still alive today. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I mean,
But Bill, the air is less polluted, the water is less polluted. As countries get richer, they pollute less. When they're industrializing, they pollute more. There might be individual environmental toxins, yes, but as a broad description of the status of OECD countries, we are polluting on.
That's not exactly true. No matter how confidently it's sold, richer countries love to pat themselves on the back for supposedly being cleaner and greener. But the reality tells a different story. These same wealthy nations are flooding the world with plastics, packaging, single-use products, microplastics that end up choking oceans and poisoning ecosystems. And it doesn't stop there. They often ship their waste to poorer nations, outsourcing their pollution while keeping their own backyard spotless. Meanwhile, many developing countries are saddled with outdated vehicles, crumbling infrastructure, and appliances that pump toxic fumes straight into the atmosphere. Add those together, and the idea that rich nations pollute less starts to look like a carefully crafted myth. It's a convenient talking point, not a reality. And guess what? Bill Maher is about to dismantle that smug little narrative with one of his trademark takedowns.
depends on where you live, first of all.
That's right.
Out here in California, I believe I'm breathing in the fire still. The fire burned a lot of this city, and a lot of this city had plastic in their home. And we were already getting, they say, a credit card's worth of plastic in our body on a weekly basis. So I don't know what you're talking about, like it's better than it used to be.
I'm talking about I can see the mountains from Long Beach, which I couldn't growing up. I mean, we pass rules, we do cleaner tech over time, and all rich countries do this. It is a process. It's a whole theory of the case called the Kuznets curve. It's a thing. It's worth reflecting on and respecting too.
Maher wastes no time putting his guest squarely in his place, pointing out the uncomfortable truth that wealthier nations like the United States are often just as bad, if not worse, than some developing countries when it comes to pollution. The idea that being rich automatically makes you environmentally responsible. Maher isn't buying it, but instead of conceding, the guest scrambles to fire back with a flimsy defense. The U.S., he claims, is producing cleaner technology. Cleaner tech, sure. But who said technology alone defines environmental impact? Pollution doesn't begin and end with gadgets and solar panels. It's plastics filling our oceans, waste exported to poorer countries, toxic emissions from endless consumerism, and industries that thrive on overproduction. Maher's point is crystal clear. Cleaner tech might sound impressive, but it's a drop in the bucket when the broader picture of environmental destruction is conveniently ignored.
I do give a shit who wins the next election. And outdated racial pandering is one reason Democrats lose elections. When Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi put on kente cloth, I don't think it earned them one vote for their powerful emotional ties to Ghana. Here in California, we're now segregating kidnapping. Really. California doesn't just have Amber Alerts for missing children. We have Ebony Alerts for black children and Feather Alerts for Native American kids. What is that? We look for them by listening on the ground?
Aside from spinning lies about the environment and democratic policies, the DNC has another obsession: identity politics. And let's be honest, it's a card they've played for years with remarkable success. Barack Obama rode that very wave, leaning heavily into racial identity and pandering to black and Hispanic communities to secure his victories. Back then, it worked like a charm. But according to Bill Maher, those days are gone. And the strategy is not just outdated. It's backfiring. Voters are tired of being reduced to skin color, gender, or sexuality checkboxes. People want solutions, not slogans. They want leaders who see them as individuals, not demographics to be exploited. Maher's point is brutal but fair. The same identity-driven playbook that once guaranteed Democrats power is now driving voters away, costing them elections and credibility. Clinging to it isn't just lazy politics, it's political suicide.
Even if you like identity politics, this kind of thing is antiquated. From 2010 to 2020, the number of people identifying as multiracial in America went up 276%. 1 in 5 newlyweds now are in an interracial marriage, and that number goes up to 100% in ads for Subaru. You couldn't do a remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner today because almost 100% of Americans approve of interracial marriage, especially with rich in-laws.
Point has already been hammered home, and it couldn't be clearer. Democrats desperately need to switch tactics. Relying on the same old racial pandering simply won't cut it anymore. America is not the same country it was 20 or even 10 years ago. Communities are more diverse, more multiracial, and far less willing to be boxed into one political narrative. Many voters now have multi-ethnic backgrounds, dual citizenships, or global perspectives